Hello everyone and welcome. In this video, I'm going to talk about the property decorator in Python, but before that, let's go over some underlying concepts that you need to understand. So I have a class right here called students, which has an init method which takes two parameters, the first name and a last name. And then I have this method here which returns a full name. So it returns the first name and the last name. And lastly, I have an instance of my class here, which I named Mike Davis. So both of these attributes are public attributes. And what does that mean? Well, it means that they can be accessed and modified from anywhere in my program. So I can just do something like s1.first, and if I print this is going to give me Mike. So it's going to give me only the first name of my student. And I can also do something like s1.first equals Mark. So I can modify this first name, and if I run this, it's going to give me Mark. Now, a protected attribute should not be accessed or modified directly from outside the class where it was created, unless it is through setters and getters. So if I want to turn this attribute protected, what I'm going to have to do is use a naming convention, which is I'm going to add an underscore before the name. Now, this doesn't actually turn the attribute protected because Python doesn't really have that functionality implemented like other programming languages do. So when you turn an attribute protected, you're not actually making it impossible to modify or access outside of the class. It is just a naming convention to tell other programmers that you want that to happen, that you want them to see that attribute as a protected attribute. Now, the property decorator allows you to access protected attributes as if they were public through getters and setters. So getters and setters are actually methods that are inside of the property decorator. And a getter is used to access the value of an attribute. The setter is used to set the value of the attribute. And then you have other methods like deleter, which is used to delete the attribute. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a property for my first name attribute. So I'm going to decorate this method with the property decorator to indicate that this is a property, and this is going to be our getter. So I'm going to define um, what is it first. So this is going to be the name of our property. This is going to take in self, and the getter basically allows you to access the attribute itself. So that's what a getter does. um, and so we're accessing the attribute through an intermediary, which is the getter. So we're not accessing the data directly, which is exactly what we want, since first is going to be a protected attribute. So in here, I'm just going to return self dot first, like so. Okay, so now we have our getter, and the name of our property is first. So I'm going to decorate my property with a setter and a getter. So I'm going to say at first, which is the name of my property, dot setter. So this is going to be my setter, and I'm going to define first. The setter, the getter, and the deleter all have the name of the property. So in this case, first. I'm going to define self, and then new first is going to be the name of my new name. And in here, I'm going to check if the length of my new name is smaller than 10 characters. And if it is not, then I want to raise an exception. So I want to say if len of new first is smaller than 10, then I want to change self dot first into new first. And if it's not, then I want to raise a value error, like so. So this is going to be our setter. This is going to set our self dot first to the new name that we give it. And before that, it's going to check if the length of the new name is smaller than 10. And if it's not, it's going to raise this error. And lastly, let's code our deleters. So let me decorate this with first, which is the name of our property, dot deleter. The name is also going to be first, so the name of our property. It's going to take in one parameter self, And in here, I just want to reset self.first. So self.first is going to equal none. Okay, so let me just remove these underscores and remove this one as well. So why are we removing the underscore? Well, that's because we're actually accessing the property. We're not accessing the attribute here. So we're going to access the property, which is first, as if it was an attribute. So we're actually using the getter and setter as an intermediary to access the attribute, which is a protected attribute, as if it was a public attribute. So now if I run this, you can see that everything works correctly. The only difference is that we're using the getter and the setters as intermediaries. And now if I say self.full name like that, this is also going to work. So this is going to say Mark Davis. Now let me add a few random characters here so that it is greater than 10. And now if I run this, you can see that this is going to raise a value error. Okay, so you can see that the getter and the setter are both working just fine. Now all we have to do is delete our attribute. So down here, let me say delete s1 dot first, like that. Well, actually, we don't need the underscore here because we're deleting the property itself. So we've deleted the property, and now if I say print s1 dot first, like so, and I run this, you can see that this is going to print none. And if I print the full name, so print s1 dot full name, like so, and I run this, this is going to give me none Davis. So as you can see, the first name was successfully deleted. So using the getters and setters as intermediaries allows us to protect our data by not accessing it directly and making it so that the attributes remain protected. So that's why you'd want to use the property decorator. And that's it for this video. I hope it was easy to understand. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And if you liked the video, if it was helpful, please like and subscribe to support the channel. And I'll see you in the next video.